Ryan Faith is a contributing editor at Vice News. He joins me now to discuss the Cosmodrome launch and the future of Russia's space program. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you.
So this launch, why is this considered such a big deal?
Well, the Soviet Union particularly had a launch site in what's now Kazakhstan. So, space launch is kind of a matter of national sovereignty in some sense. So this is sort of a really big move away from the old launch site to have something that's on Russian soil. And it's sort of a showcase in many respects.
And clearly there were some issues there going on Wednesday, which is when the launch was scheduled set for. They called it off less than 2 minutes before liftoff. So there are still glitches in this program, isn't there? Well,
space is always very, very glitch prone because it's very, very small margins and very high demands on physics and technology and engineering. So I think the 2-minute delay on launch it's not the end of the world. I mean, I think when the first rockets were being launched from the U.S., there were like 8-hour delays and so on and so forth. So
what do you make of Russia's space program at this point? As we heard what our reporters say, they put the first human in space back in 1961, but clearly a lot of changes since the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Absolutely. I mean, they had, as mentioned, a very strong, very, very strong, competent technical base. And what they've been trying to sort of manage to get through over the last few decades is essentially a aging of some personnel and then getting enough funding and new personnel in to sort of keep that knowledge preserved. And so it's sort of still an open question of how well they'll be able to maintain that sort of technological edge that they developed after so many years.
So what are they doing right, and what do they need to do better?
One of the things that I think they're actually doing right is the spaceport, because they're building new rockets, they're building a new spaceport, and so they're sort of building a whole new sort of set of infrastructure that they're going to own in a post-Soviet, universe very well. I think the things that they need to work on a little bit is launch reliability. They've had some problems in the last few years, so therefore it's another reason a new rocket's a good idea. And they're starting to get a little bit more into planetary exploration, so that's pretty promising.
And when something goes wrong with a rocket launch for Russia, there are also ramifications for U.S. because U.S. relies on Russia to take things to the International Space Station and astronauts. Right?
No, absolutely, yes. It's one of the things that's actually been sort of a quiet success story in a way, is that as hostile as the U.S. and Russian governments have been towards each other, their cooperation on space is still pretty strong, so we're still pretty interdependent. So I think the U.S. has sort of a vested interest in not seeing Russian failure. So it's sort of the antithesis of the space race in a sense, that failure doesn't do anybody any good.
Talk about this Cosmodrome, Ryan. Why is this? I mean, you obviously mentioned this is a new location. They're very proud of this. But what is the significance? I mean, why is it such a big deal?
It's the whole process of getting a rocket ready for launch, getting the satellite repaired, getting it fueled. All of this requires a huge amount of infrastructure, very specialized infrastructure for, fuels and so on and so forth. And it's very difficult it's something you just can't sort of toss together over a weekend. So building a launch site usually does take several years. And this is going to be a really big hub for them.
Big hub. All right, we'll leave it at that. Ryan Faith, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.